Corey Lewandowski has been one of Donald Trump's fiercest defenders, first as his original campaign manager and later as a CNN commentator. He's now an outside advisor to Trump, free to speak his mind, and he joins me now from Manchester, New Hampshire. Corey, good morning. Let me start with something you said at Harvard that caused a bit of ridicule in the press. Quote, quoting you now, "This is the problem with the media. You guys took everything that Donald Trump said so literally, the American people didn't." You said sometimes you say something, don't have all the facts to back it up. But my question, shouldn't the media hold every presidential candidate accountable for his words?
Well, of course people are accountable for their words, Howie, but you have to remember, the American people understand the way Donald Trump is going to go and be a change agent in Washington. And when he talked about things, look, he talked about Carrier as an example. And what he said was, as an example, we're going to make sure that they don't ship their jobs to Mexico. And before he ever even has taken the oath of office to become the next president of the United States, he saved 1,100 jobs in Indiana from that Carrier plant that was going to move. Those are the types of things that he's going to do. He talked about that in the broader scale of saving American jobs, and what we saw was actually, literally, he saved those jobs.
But talk about it in terms of this word literally. You say the American people got it when Trump would kind of, some would say, shoot from the hip, and the media were like parsing every word. But it seems like it's another way of saying, well, he doesn't really have to be held accountable for his words, because if we call him on it, he can say, well, I was just using a figure of expression, I was just being sarcastic, I didn't really mean it.
No. What I'm saying is that when he was speaking about saving jobs in America, I don't know if he actually said, I'm going to go be able to save those Carrier jobs. He was using that as an example. The difference is we've seen Donald Trump in the 5 weeks since this election save 1,100 jobs in Indiana, do a deal with a foreign government where they're going to invest $50 billion and bring 50,000 new jobs here to our country. That's what he talked about. He talked about the grand scale of bringing those jobs back to America and making America first. So that's what he talked about, and that's what he's now delivering on.
When all the press fact-checkers and truth squatters would say, well, he said this and it's wrong, and this is contradicted by this other statement and so forth, do you think that didn't resonate because many people, including probably most people who voted for Trump, don't trust the media?
Well, look, if you look at the polls coming after this election, 97% of the people that were surveyed from MRC said that they didn't let the media bias weigh on their decision to vote for Donald Trump in this election. And I think it's been very clear, and there's been multiple studies on this, that the media was biased against Donald Trump, and he bypassed the mainstream media by his Twitter feed, by his rallies, by going directly to the American people and connecting with 30 million people and pushing that message out of what he wanted to do. That's what drives the mainstream media crazy, is that he can go right to the American people and tell it to them directly.
All right, let's talk about Dean Baquet, the executive editor of the New York Times. You said recently that by publishing a couple of years of Trump's tax returns during the campaign, that he, Baquet, had committed a felony against Trump, that this was egregious, and that he should go to jail. But the person who broke the law here, it's not Dean Baquet, it's whoever anonymously sent those tax returns to the New York Times.
Well, I agree with you, but as you know, Dean went to Harvard University and said he was willing to go to jail to publish Donald Trump's taxes. He was encouraging someone to break the law and used his perch at the head of the New York Times to say he was going to publish that information, knowing that it was going to be obtained illegally. Now, look, I don't think that's right. Donald Trump was a private citizen. As you know, he said many times that as soon as his audit was done, he was going to release his taxes. And that's the privilege of being a private citizen. And if Donald Trump wanted to release his taxes, he could have done that. But someone releasing his taxes without his permission, as you know, is a felony.
Well, we can debate whether being a presidential candidate is also the same as being a private citizen. But as you know, Corey, I mean, sometimes journalists publish confidential or classified information to expose wrongdoing or doing what they think is in the public interest. A lot of the public might or might not agree. When you talk about criminal penalties for journalists, that could have a chilling effect. Do you not see some value in the press digging up stuff and getting journalists getting their hands on material that's supposed to be secret?
Well, look, the question is, what in Donald Trump's taxes did we learn that was going to change the outcome of the election? Nothing. What we learned is that he's as rich as everyone knows he is, that he took advantage of the tax laws because the laws are so fundamentally flawed that he's going to go and change those so that people can't take that advantage anymore. There's nothing in there that was a material decision that was going to change the outcome of the election. So what I don't understand is there's a difference between publishing classified information that has a direct impact on the American people, and publishing someone's taxes that doesn't materially change the outcome of an election.
All right. Now, you resigned as a CNN contributor the day after the election. Obviously, you may take an administration job. CNN took a lot of flack for hiring you, and it seemed like you'd be on these sort of 8-person panels, and most of the people would be beating up on you. On election night, Van Jones said you were a horrible person. What was it like being on those panels during your time at CNN?
Well, look, let me say I get a lot of friends at CNN, and I want to thank them for the opportunity to be able to defend Donald Trump during this presidential election cycle. But you know what it comes down to is I wanted to have the opportunity to be able to speak my mind anywhere I wanted. And look, there are good people who work at CNN, and my colleagues over there are good, honorable people. I just want to have the opportunity to spread a message about Donald Trump on as many networks as possible, and that's why I chose to resign from CNN.
Right. Did you ever feel, though, in many of those appearances, the deck was kind of stacked against you?
Look, I've got broad shoulders, Howie. I think it's fair to say I've taken a lot of bullets this election cycle. Not as many as Donald Trump, but I've taken my fair share. So, you know, my shoulders are broad, and I think I can hold my own in any of those panels.
All right, you've got the scars to show for it. Now, finally, the election is over, and President-elect Trump has to go through the tough slog of governing. What does he gain from continuing these harsh tweets against CNN, for example, New York Times, NBC, even Vanity Fair and its editor, Graydon Carter? I mean, he's settling scores, but how does that help him govern?
Well, look, it's not about governing. It's about, you know, being honest with the American people. And what he has brought to light this election cycle is that there is a massive media bias. We've seen it. And what Donald Trump has said is, I'm not going to let people be untruthful about me and not counterpunch. I think it's a great opportunity where you've got someone who can go directly to the people to tell them the truth. It's something that no one's ever had the privilege of doing without calling a press conference. And, you know, he can put out a tweet, and it's the front page or it's the breaking news of any major network. It's an opportunity that didn't exist 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and he's used it to make sure that the truth is getting out, and that's important.
No question about it. But when you were running his campaign, and many of those tweets would cause controversy, did you ever say, sir, you need to step away from the Twitter?
Look, that's not my job. Isn't to tell Donald Trump, and wasn't to tell Donald Trump, you know, what to tweet or what not to tweet, because, you know, he's a grown man. But more importantly, he fundamentally understands what the American people are after. And when he talked about just recently not allowing the flag to be burned, I understand what the Supreme Court has said, but I also know that 80% of the American people agree with him on that, and he has his finger on the pulse of the American people, and he's used Twitter to remind those people of where he stands on important positions. I think it's a great benefit to the candidate.
Corey Lewandowski, scars and all, thanks very much for joining us this Sunday.
Thank you.
Great.